Coming to you from Oneida, New York, it's the podcast Running Wild. Today we are joined by phone by Sean Stysik, aka Slipstones. Slipstones, what's going on?
Hey, glad to be on the pod. Glad to be running on the wild side of things.
You know it.
Let's get to it. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no, thanks for coming on. Let's get right into it. The NBA draft was last night. Markelle Fultz went number one. This was the consensus number one pick, wasn't it?
I guess by facts it was because by all accounts it seemed as if Boston was going to take him
Right.
when they were seriously considering keeping that pick, and then a team approached them to trade up and get him. So I guess he was the consensus number one, which is pretty iconic in the sense of like this was a pretty. I think this is going to be an iconic draft.
Right.
And when we were talking before this, you made a quick note that you didn't know if you were completely sold on Markelle Fultz. I hate to that kill the suspense there. You said that, and I'll tell you my opinion. The only reason someone shouldn't be completely sold on him is only because of how good of a draft this class is. It's not even like a knock on how good Markelle Fultz is, because he's really good.
Right.
But like this draft is so heavy, so deep that when you look back in a couple of years, maybe there's a good chance, just by chance, that taking the field over one player that you would have wanted someone else at that number one spot. But I guess hindsight's 2020, and he seemed to be the man.
I mean, he's the most athletic. He's the most, maybe not even the most athletic. He's the most talented, and he's probably the most ready to go in terms of just being able to score the basketball. But for me,
pretty good all around too.
Right, defensively, he's not a liability, I don't think. At least he hasn't shown that yet. But for me, when I watched him play at Washington, he was the man. He was supposed to be the man. That team didn't even make the NIT. So he's not making players around him better. Part of me just, you have to want to be a winner at this high level, and winning it's a habit. It's not something you just turn on, and so that's scary for me. That he couldn't even win in the make it into the NIT.
That falls onto Washington is like the team as a whole versus him as a player.
Right. And ultimately, that's what Philly's saying, right?
If you're pro Markelle, that's what you're saying, yeah. But it really is tough to gauge. It's 2 years in a row that the number one pick went to the same team with kind of the same story.
Right, exactly. Yep, with Ben Simmons last year.
Simmons and Fultz are both the same guy up to this point.
Right.
They're both the number one consensus player going into college. They both chose an unorthodox college basketball program to go to for being the number one guy.
Right.
And both of their teams did terribly.
Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of that has to lie on them because they're the. Oh, sorry.
No, and Simmons didn't even get to play in the postseason play. I think they did make the NIT, and he didn't even get to participate.
Right. LSU withdrew from the NIT that year.
Season play in college.
Right.
And here they are, both like part of what's considered to be one of the most talented young cores in the NBA.
Right. So, do you like what the Sixers have now? You see all the time. Trust the process. That was on Twitter a lot. Do you like what the Sixers have now?
I want to like it. That's for sure.
Okay.
Saric and Embiid are pretty good to have as your 4 and 5. Fultz and Simmons, too oversized for their position, ball handlers. Fultz, is a point guard, and Simmons is a point forward.
Right.
And I mean, that's just a solid young core. You can't knock it. It should be interesting to see how they grow together. I guess there's concerns there with health. Simmons missed all season, and
And
Embiid has
Embiid
had
too,
health
yeah.
problems. So it'll be interesting to see how they can grow together. But I guess you can't knock the Markelle Fultz pick too much. I wouldn't have picked him number one. That's me. I
Really?
wouldn't have.
Okay.
I wouldn't have.
Okay, who
Only because of how good this draft is. I just think Markelle's a top five pick in any draft, probably a number one pick in most drafts.
Right.
I wouldn't have picked him number one in this draft.
Right, that's just the thing though. We could say that about 5 or 6 guys, couldn't we, for this draft?
Yeah. Yeah.
So you touched on it. The Celtics, they went along your train of thought. They traded down, which I thought was really brilliant on Danny Ainge's part, GM for the Celtics. Who was?
The Celtics just stay in the driver's seat.
They really do, though.
They're in control of what's happening to them at all times. When other teams are not, they are.
Mm-hmm.
Why not take a pick next year from a crappy team and move down and get the guy you want?
Right, which I think the Celtics did. I don't think they weren't sold on Fultz or Ball.
Right. No, that was a page. That was John Lynch and the 49ers. That's what they
Yeah,
did
exactly,
right now.
exactly.
They moved down two. The Niners did one spot, but they moved down 2 spots. Got an absolute stud player that fits with their team.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So was for you Jayson Tatum the number 1 pick?
No.
Who?
But see, I can't. It's tough for me to make like a prospect board and really, really like rate these prospects. Like I can do something like that, but like it's really based on what your team needs and what your team has and your culture, your team, and who you'd want to draft up there. Tatum could be a 1 pick. He's super good. He's ready to go.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. I really like both De'Aaron Fox and Lonzo Ball as surefire stud players.
Right.
And I probably would have taken one of them number 1.
Oh, okay.
It's funny that there's so many people in the world who like what we're doing right now.
Right.
Who sit back and just for S's and G's talk about who they'd pick and all this stuff. But like if you wanted to get down to, I think those guys are so good, and I'd have such a hard time deciding between the two that I would need to sit down with these guys. I'd need to watch their workouts, to interview them, see what kind of people they are.
Right.
Like like all these things, like to really make a something I would put a quote on. But I would have had a hard time not taking De'Aaron Fox or Lonzo Ball number 1.